Henry, what do you do when it's time to shut down your company? Specifically, I want to know, has this ever been something that you've been unfortunately having to do, and what was your experience like with this?
I have shut down businesses in the past. The impact has been fairly,
Hmm.
contained to be just me and my immediate surroundings for the most part, because relatively small businesses. But yeah, this is something that happens. And I think that the most difficult part for me is kind of accepting it myself, to be
Totally.
honest, is like now is the time. I have to bite the bullet. And because my companies haven't grown to large headcounts, I haven't really had to think about many other people or stakeholders. But I have had some, independent contractors, people that have worked for me in the past, letting them know that the time has come for us to break up, stop working together on this project is hard. But that's kind of my limited experience with this.
Yeah, yeah, similar in my own experience where so like had other companies before this, but we're almost always just sole proprietor, me doing something for somebody else. The company I started out of college, Lumastic, that ran for 3.5 years, we did eventually run out of money and die, like most startups. Uh, and in that world, we were thankfully, like not very big, so pretty self-contained, but we like had uh, taken customers' money and like had like things we needed to fulfill. Back to our conversation about like delivery, but realized that it was just not something that we could pursue anymore, both financially and also I had gotten super burnt out, and I think had
Right.
also kind of burnt out most of our team. So it was just kind of time to shut down. But barring that part, which is a separate conversation that we'll have probably on another episode, is when do you know when to quit, or how do you know when to quit? This is after you've made the decision, after you know it's time to quit, after you've like talked to your founding team and maybe some of your advisors, and you've decided it's the end game now. What do you do, and what do you not do? So the I've got like four kind of steps here. Step zero I have is like tell everyone formally, right? So this is something that after our conversation over Keith's dinner table, after I took about a 2 month break, mental health break, we got back together, and I was like, okay, I've got a plan for how we're gonna like, make this profitable and sustainable and all that stuff. And at the end of an hour and a half long conversation, Keith and I are like writing the letter to everyone saying, actually, we're going to shut this down. So first thing you do, tell everyone. That includes customers, friends, family, mentors, investors, employees. Write something down, send it out to everything. Doing this first is very important for so many reasons, but the main one I want to talk about is that it helps you with all the other steps I'm about to talk about. Which
Yeah, good.
the next one being, and I have these in kind of like not in order of to do, but in order of priority. One is take care of your customers. So notify them that the product is shutting down. Give them a grace period to migrate. This is really important to know that you should do, like have to do, because it dictates how you spend money in those later game stages of like you need to know that you have to keep the lights on for like depending on your product, like months. I think we kept Lumastic on for 4 months afterwards, and like we're a SaaS product, and so like the other big part of taking care of our customers was helping them migrate to another product that another competitor that we had outlined as like this is the one that we think is most similar or collection of tools. If you don't have a direct comp, and giving them a list of competitors to switch to, and if time/relationship exists between you and a competitor, like building an automated way for them to migrate, and even potentially setting them up with like a 6 month free trial of the other service or whatever it is. Like these are really, really nice things that you can do for your customers. I say nice, but they're like very important. They're important for your reputation as a founder going forward. If you're in an industry that you like feel an affinity for, and you think you might want to work in this space again, making sure that you take care of those customers is really important, because it leaves those options open for you to start a new product later in the future and email them to say, hey, last one didn't work out, but you did kind of like it. do you want to do you want to try my next one? And I joke, but that's a real thing. What do you think of that first step, Henry?
Absolutely valid. This one to me is kind of the easiest one to
So
do,
easy.
maybe. Yeah, so good
Especially,
order of priority, and yeah,
yeah, it's so easy, and especially if you kind of like us had a product people kind of liked, but were like not devastated, that it was shutting down. We did have one person that was pretty sad about it, but I think they mostly just liked the vision and the idea, that we were selling to them, like
yeah,
back to
and
that previous conversation. But um, yeah, it's like such a vital part of it, and it makes it a lot easier when you're in that situation because you're not you're disappointing people, but you're not disappointing people to the level of the next two ones that we'll talk about. Which
yeah,
number two is taking care of your employees, right? Like I want to talk about this specifically because I think so many founders do this so wrong. And it's one of those situations where when we're talking about the impact of having people operate on incomplete information, it can be catastrophic to your employees' lives if you all of a sudden, with like 3 weeks left on payroll, say, actually, sorry, we have to shut down. You all have to find new jobs. Or like you're all laid off, right? Like that's just like a horrible, shitty thing to do to somebody. So don't be that person, right? When you formulate your company, make a plan, a shutdown plan. It is so likely that this is going to happen to you. And so writing down the action plan of like how you're going to shut down is something that you can do so easily when you don't have to do it, right? When it's not, you're making a decision to execute this plan, you're just making the plan. And part of that plan should be that our cutoff date in terms of like money, right? Like we're running out of money, should be 3 months of payroll prior, right? So you would have a 3 month runway to shut down the company before you're actually out of money. And that 3 month previous date is your actual cutoff. That's the one that you have in your mind. And it's the one you stick to when you hit it. Or you do the, second part of my bullet points is you tell your employees when you hit it, you say, hey, we're riding it, we're riding the edge. This might be it. Right. And you tell everyone so that they can make their own decision about whether or not to stay on the ship, right? So many founders are like, oh, well, if I told everyone that we were riding razor thin margins and we were working week to week, people would leave. And it's like, yeah, of course they would leave. And by
yeah,
robbing them of that information, you're causing for some of them like potential extreme financial harm, right? Like, and it is not your place to make the decision, in some paternalistic way about whether or not people should stay on with your sinking ship. You should let them decide to stay on with the ship. And if you've done a good job in terms of, like leadership, motivation, like making people feel safe at work, all that stuff, it's likely that the people that can stay, that are willing to ride out the sinking ship, have not that much to lose in terms of external responsibility, will stay. Um, that was a soapbox, Henry. What do you think about? What do you think about that?
I mean, I've heard people call this even more extreme as, like, economic terrorism.
I would
Like, you
agree with that.
cannot leave people out to dry like this, and so I feel like a lot of startups and founders, feel like, "My employees have taken on great risk already to join us. I've given them equity in order to compensate for that risk. Things not going well, that was to be expected. They should be prepared for
Mhm.
that at a moment's notice. We can do better,
We can do so
right?
much
We could
better.
do a
And
lot
so
better
many
than that."
times they're not. So many times people are not trained like founders when they join startups, right? They're like trained like anybody in our society that looks and watched, the Social Network, right? They think it's going to be a fun time, small company, that you're going to have a lot of responsibility. No one thinks about the period where at any given point in time we would just shut down and I wouldn't have a job, right? And so it's your role and responsibility as the founder to give them that information, and to inform them about when you hit that kind of go no go, and whether or not you collectively decide to continue or to not. Um, Part of that too is if people do decide to leave, right, in that 3 month period while you're shutting down, you help them find new jobs. This is something that I think it's Stuart Butterfield, of the founder of Slack. Yep, Stuart Butterfield, founder of Slack and Flickr. Before he started Slack, he started a kind of like game company. And when the game company realized that they were shutting down, they had run out of money and time, he gave everyone, I think, a month and a half of, paid, we will help you find new jobs. And I think like 95% of people left that company with a new job. Don't quote me on that number, but it was a significant thing that made me feel inspirational about this is the way to do it. And so that's why I'm bringing it up. And this goes such a far way, just like with your customers who you've made sure it's been a very easy transition off of your product to show that you still care about them, even at the end, right? Same goes for your employees. The people that will trust you so much more when you come to them again after a failure as a second time founder saying, I'm back in this arena, would you come join me on my new thing, right? That trust and relationship is going to be remembered. That loyalty to your employees is going to be remembered, and is going to be a big reason that they may or may not want to come back, is how you left them. Is that anything that resonates with you, Henry? Like anything you had experience with?
It's totally
Yeah.
valid. I haven't been in a position where I've even had, I mean, I've had runway, but I've never had a business that was reliably making consistent revenue and we were scaling it quickly in terms of
Mm-hmm.
headcount. So I haven't really had to make this, trade off in my mind, having kind of a plan for when it shuts down. Because everything's kind of just been contract based.
Yeah.
There's always that end date. But I've been on the other side of it, and I've had friends and family on the other side of it, and it feels like, what you're recommending never happens in the startup space. So it's definitely something to promote and try to get people to take notice
Yeah,
of.
exactly. And again, I am not someone personally who has ever gotten to the point where, we raised $3 million and we are,
Mhm.
like 20K away from zero, right? So I, in some ways, can't imagine how much pressure that can put you under. What I can imagine is that you, as a founder, are strong and capable enough to perform these basic requirements of human decency about what to do when a thing that you've created and you're responsible for needs to be, put out to pasture. The last one I want to talk about is take care of your business. This is the one that I will admit, Keith and I are like not very, like we're not very good at, and still haven't completely finished the to-do list of 3 years later. But collect all outstanding invoices so that you can do the finalized accounting. Sell off like your inventory assets, like, and anything you possibly can in order to do the next one, which is like pay off all credit and debtors. Like these are all the things that you have to do. Again, if you have not taken any money, all that stuff, this becomes a lot easier. And that's another reason to recommend go slow. If you can. But there are a lot of businesses that just require some sort of upfront capital, so this is all the stuff you have to do. This is something that Keith and I were not super good at, and should have been more diligent with, which is cancel all your business credit cards and your subscriptions for your business, because you can get saddled with hundreds of dollars of AWS fees like we did for months, and I believe those were on Keith's personal credit card. so just please do that. Yeah, then close your business bank accounts and other financial accounts. Again, something Keith and I have not done. And distribute all remaining funds to all of the owners. Yeah, file all your disillusionment documents, do all that stuff. And then finally, blah, blah, blah. This is all stuff that you can find on the internet better. The last one I want to tell you is so important, and people skip over this one. Pay your taxes for the year that you shut
Mm,
down, because
yeah.
it gets really awkward and weird when you have to send the IRS something that's like, oh shit, I forgot that we like made a little bit of money in 2025. And thankfully, I think for most people this will not be an issue. Like if you've been making nominal money, like the IRS isn't going to come after you, but it can be worse. I have friends that it has been worse for, and it gets, once your business, doesn't exist, it can, fall to you as the owners. So just be sure that you button up all the stuff, get an accountant, finalize all that.
Yeah, and get your ducks in a row while it's still
Yeah,
fresh.
exactly.
You don't want to put it off. And yeah, I've been hit by a lot of those same subscriptions, which tells you something about the
The
SaaS
SaaS
model.
model.
I'll tell you that.
If it works,
It's
it
a brutal
works.
game.
It's
Yeah,
like we're all victims of it, and some of us are beneficiaries. But uh,
yeah.
outside of that, shutting down your business is very hard. It can be an emotionally charged time. And so the other thing that I want to make sure that people know is like, take care of your customers, take care of your employees, take care of your business, and take care of yourself. Right. Like after we shut down Lumastic, I went through like the worst depression that I have ever been in for like over a year. But seems to be the trend on this podcast. Go to therapy, like get help, talk to your friends and loved ones, and know that, yeah, it might not have worked out, but experience is what you get when you didn't get what you wanted, and you can always try again. I'm a testament to the fact that you can come out of a very dark time, feeling not so good about yourself, and be back in the arena. So take care of yourself.
Excellent, excellent words. I think that, you said it can be an emotionally charged time. It is
It
an
is.
emotionally charged time every single time. And yeah, I mean, we are social creatures. Talking about your feelings, talking about your experiences is critical, whether it's therapy, friends, family, or starting a podcast, getting these ideas out, super important for everybody. And, others can learn from your experiences as